Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, Monday, May 25th, Ian Cameron solo edition here on this Monday. Montreal hosting Carolina as we go back to the insane asylum of the Bell Center for Game 3 of the Eastern Conference Final tonight. We'll tee up that game in just a moment. Wish everybody south of the border a happy Memorial Day holiday, of course, Memorial Day in the United States. And this has, as you can see, become an annual tradition that I wear the American flag T-shirt here on the Memorial Day edition of the show to honor American friends that tune into the show. We hope we're having a good holiday. I'll tell you what, who's not having a good holiday, the Colorado Avalanche. We'll get to that in just a moment. But first, we have a little bit of news to pass along, breaking news regarding our next live betcast. So we will get to that right now.
This is breaking news from the Ice Guys.
And we will be with you for what could be a potential closeout game. Well, it is a potential closeout game. Will it actually be a closeout game for the Vegas Golden Knights? Can they actually sweep the Colorado Avalanche? What nobody would have thought was possible before the season started might be very possible and might become a reality tomorrow night, and we will be with you for it. It is our Western Conference Final, Game 4 live betcast, Patreon exclusive live betcast. So you must be a Patreon member to join us tomorrow night on Tuesday for Game 4, Western Conference Final live betcast, Colorado, Vegas, Tuesday, May 26th, 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern time, which is when that game will begin. So make sure you join us tomorrow night. Looking forward to that. Again, we're going to see if Vegas can close out the series in 4 straight, finish it with a sweep. And again, to join us on that betcast, either tune into it or, of course, be on the stream live on the betcast itself with us. You must be a Patreon member. So if you're not already, get on board, patreon.com/iceguys, just $10 per month. We will be starting on non-NHL playoff game days. On June 1st, we will be starting for the Patreon members, posting a daily card with bets in the other sports, whether it's NBA, remainder of the playoffs, MLB, UFC, CFL, any other sport we bet. And I actually just announced this to the people that are subscribed with me on my Dub Club, all sports subscription platform. I will be providing picks and I will be betting the World Cup this year. Soccer. Of course, World Cup soccer begins June 11th. And I've never done this before. I've never released picks. I've never posted picks, and I've never really been diving in. I've never really been diving in head first to betting the World Cup in the past. Part of it is these games are always weird times because most of the time the World Cup has been, in Europe and Asia, halfway around the world. And, some of the games are starting early in the morning. There's never any primetime games. There's never any games at night. But of course, this year's World Cup is a trifecta, a 3-way co-hosting operation with U.S., Mexico, and Canada, all hosting a World Cup game. So, I will be betting it this year because I'll be able to actually watch most of the matches. So looking forward to that. We will, and so World Cup soccer, anything that I bet in the World Cup will be part of the daily card on the Patreon page throughout the summer months as well. So very much looking forward to it. Patreon.com/iceguys, just $10 per month. Very much looking forward to that. Yeah, Alex has just got, he's gonna miss some days whenever the foot, is kind of bothering him, and it's one of those days today. He'll be back maybe for the daily show tomorrow. Probably, absolutely, he'll be back from what he told me for the betcast tomorrow night. So it's just the way it is, It's trust me, Alex does not. I'm sick of the narrative that Alex is lazy and he doesn't want to do the shows every day. That's not it. Okay, I'm not putting up with people saying that about Alex, my co-founder, my colleague for all these years. He's dealing with significant physical pain, significant physical issues over the years. It's just the way it's been. And there's certain days where the body's not cooperating for him. But I'm okay taking up the slack. That's never bothered me once that I've had to do this many solo shows at times without Alex. And Alex, for the first half of the year, he was on almost every fucking day. So, the idea that he's not on just because he doesn't want to do the show is a bunch of nonsense. So, not listening to that. So he'll be fine. And like I said, he'll be on when, like I said, he's feeling good enough. But in the meantime, show must go on, and I'm happy to do it o solo mio. So with that in mind, let's turn our attention to Colorado and Vegas. And when you look at last night, just a really stunning turn of events. We saw this great start from the Colorado Avalanche, and I wasn't that shocked to see it. I mean, down 2-0, backs against the wall. The news that, and obviously the big story was Cale Makar returning and playing for the first time in this series, which was a huge boost for the Avalanche. That being said, and I'll get to it, he was definitely not 100%. They were getting 70 to 80% Cale Makar, and I'm not even sure, and that might even be, kind to say he was 70 to 80% healthy last night as far as his health goes. But the bottom line is, and I've often heard it, when he's that great of a player, and he is, oftentimes putting a 70% Cale Makar in the lineup is better than not having Cale Makar in the lineup. And he certainly did all he could. But it was a great start. They got the first goal to go up 1-0. They pounced on a 2-0 lead right after that. It couldn't have started the game any better. Vegas, it looked like, got back into the game at 2-1 with a Dorofeyev goal after Landeskog and Kadri made it 2-0. But the goal was disallowed. Now, this is a tough one. It was called no goal on the ice, and because of that, it probably has to stay no goal on the ice. To me, it looked like the puck hit the stick, the stick and the glove of Dorofeyev. And even if it just hits a sliver of the glove and goes in, the rule states that you can't allow the goal to count, and that's what we saw there. That being said, I also think that if that was ruled a goal, it probably would have remained a goal. I think there's a decent chance it would have remained a goal. So I think that's kind of the way it went as far as that goal that was taken off the board at 2-0 Colorado, the goal by Dorofeyev that would have made it 2-1. And sure enough, right after that, and I thought this swing was going to just completely kill Vegas in that game. Jack Drury, shorthanded, right after that goal was disallowed to make it 3-0 in favor of the Colorado Avalanche. I thought, wow, that could be a backbreaker. That's a killer to give that up. How do you bounce back from that? And so Colorado's into the intermission up 3-0. We, by the way, cashed first period over. We had and by the way, shout out to Rich H. Rich H Special is what this bet is called. And it's special because I've hit it now 2 games in a row here in the playoffs. And that bet is goal in the first period for one of the teams parlayed with goal in the first 10 minutes. I had it with Carolina Saturday. I had it with Colorado last night. Hit it both times. Carolina goal in the first period plus goal in the first 10. Colorado goal in the first period, goal in the first 10. And it was, I think, plus money both times. So, and Rich H put that idea to me to make that kind of bet because he mentioned it last week during one of the games. So Rich H Special is what that's now called. Team to score in the first and goal in the first 10 minutes. We hit it with Carolina Saturday, Colorado yesterday. We had the first period over, obviously, in that game as well. So it couldn't have worked out a better start. And Tortorella, I reposted some clips of him doing post-game or dressing room speeches to his teams from the past, a couple of them. I think one was with Columbus, you don't back down, and one of them was with the Rangers, just showing how fiery he can be behind closed doors and how intense he can be. Whatever he said after 3-0 down after the first period, it clearly fucking worked because it looked like a different Vegas team in the second period. I know Stone said it in the post-game that we kind of knew they were going to throw their best at us in the first period. We weren't ready to match it. But they were ready to come the beginning of the second period for sure. And it was Mark Stone power play that made it 3-1, obviously. And that's it's not just the 3-1 goal. It's that it came at 19 seconds into the second period. And the moment I saw that, I'm like, that's about as worst case scenario as it gets for Colorado, even though at the time they were still up by 2 goals. I'm like, to give that goal up 19 seconds into the period, you've just breathed new life into essentially a dead corpse. So I thought Vegas was a dead corpse going into the first intermission. But then Mark Stone with that power play goal, 3-1, the building's back into it, and Vegas just has shift after shift after shift where they are just taking it to Colorado with very little, if any, pushback from the Avs. Flat as a pancake in that second period as well, coming out of the intermission. It's almost like Colorado thought, okay, job done. Our work's done. We're going to win this game. Vegas didn't quit on the game, and they just took it to Colorado. Colorado looked half asleep coming out of the intermission. And you wonder if sometimes when you're talking about a coach like Jared Bednar, look, we all have heard Jared Bednar talk before many times. He's not exactly fire and brimstone personality. That's just the way it is. And sometimes that can be a detriment to keeping his team focused and eyes on the prize, so to speak, when you've had a great first period like Colorado did last night. But credit to Vegas. They came out storming. William Karlsson makes it 3-2 right after that. And by the way, Marner with great assists on both of those goals for a pair of points to set up Stone and Karlsson with those 2 goals. And then Keegan Colasar, a little bit of an unsuspecting source, tying the game at 3, 12:46 into the second period. We all were talking about this in our group chat. Colasar from Coughlin and Korczak is not exactly a scoring line. It's not exactly a line in the box score you would see for a goal. But nevertheless, we did, and it was tied 3-3 after that. I thought Colorado, it was kind of settled the game down a bit, but they didn't cash in and they didn't get the lead back. So it went to the third period, 3-3. And I thought Colorado, and of course, second period, we know McKinnon was less than 100%. I didn't even realize until after the game that Nichushkin had left the game and didn't play much at all the back half of the game. He got banged up, but the big one was Nathan McKinnon. Took a shot in a terrible area, unprotected part of his knee. Clearly his knee was bothering him the rest of the game. He did try to get off the ice on his own power and, finish the game, but you could tell he wasn't right. And then there he is in the third period back behind the bench, doing everything he can to try to get out there and help his team. And a tough son of a gun. You can't question his toughness, but it's just too much pain to overcome. They did put him out there on the power play in the third period, but you could tell he wasn't right. He wasn't compromised. And there's no doubt about it. If this wasn't a situation where we're playing for our season, down 2-0 in the series, trying to win a game 3 and avoid going down 3-0, if this was anything but that kind of situation for the Colorado Avalanche last night, there is no fucking chance Nathan McKinnon sees the ice at all in the third period. That is how much pain, that is how much attrition he was in the final period there. At that time, and like I said, it was just he gutted it out to the best he could, but you could tell he probably shouldn't have been out there. But Nathan McKinnon's the ultimate competitor, the ultimate warrior, the ultimate teammate. He will not, it's killing him, I'm sure, to see this team now down 3-0, and he was not going to be an idle bystander and a spectator to watching it happen. And he did everything he could to try to get back out there. And wasn't able to, and it's tough. And now they end up, of course, Tomas Hertl with the go-ahead goal, 4-3, and then Brett Ouden for our bargain bin special of the night into the empty net to put it away, and a 5-3 Vegas win, 5 unanswered after being down 3-0 to take a commanding 3-0 series lead. Well, not only is history against Colorado, that's one reason to think this series is over, because very few times, at least in the NBA, it's never happened. At least in the NHL playoffs, it has happened a couple times that a team has been down 3-0 and then come back to win the series in 7. But at the same point in time, they're too banged up. There's too much attrition. There's too many key cogs now walking wounded, injury plagued at this point of the series to really think Colorado is going to muster much of a comeback at all. In fact, I'd be more surprised that they win Game 4 than I would be Vegas finishing it off in a sweep. Because coming out of that game, this is what was clear. Cale Makar did the best he could. He ain't 100%, and probably not close to 100%. Val Nichushkin, Big Val, he didn't play pretty much the last half of that game. He got injured at some point, didn't play another shift. And then Nathan McKinnon, I mean, who's just the rock of this team other than Makar, and he couldn't finish that game. And there's been no update given by Jared Bednar, but it sounds like I wouldn't expect. I think there's a chance. Well, I think Makar is going to play, but again, he's not 100%. Clearly, it's chipping away at his effectiveness. He's doing the best he can, but he ain't 100%. And there's a very damn good chance we're not going to see McKinnon or Big Val Nichushkin tomorrow night in a must-win Game 4 for the Colorado Avalanche. So, like I said, it was just it's added up for Colorado. It's added up for Colorado, and they can't overcome it at this point in time. And I'll be honest, I'm a Wedgwood guy. I'm happy Bednar started Wedgwood last night, but that was not a great night from him. I thought there were a couple of those goals. I didn't love him putting the rebound back out to the middle of the ice that led to one of the goals right after that. It was not his best night. And when the other guy, Carter Hart, who has been absolutely sensational in these playoffs, even when he gave up the 3 goals. The Kadri goal, I guess, is the one you say maybe you'd like Carter Hart to have that one, but I don't think he could have done much about anything else, and he's just been outstanding. Continues to play well in these playoffs. And like I said, Colorado's just too fucking injury mangled to think that they're going to come back in this series. And like I said, I'm more expecting Vegas to end it tomorrow night than I am Colorado winning and extending the series back to Colorado for Game 5. I think, too, before we focused a lot more on Colorado, and Bednar, by the way, looked like it was a funeral procession in his post-game last night. He looked defeated. He looked like a man that's been beat when you listen to his tone of voice in the post-game last night. It's as low as it could be for us right now. It's not exactly words of inspiration going into a must-win Game 4 for the Colorado Avalanche tomorrow night. But he knows the situation. He knows how well Vegas is playing, and he knows how beaten up and banged up his team is right now, and possible multiple key cogs missing for Game 4. So Colorado has not been great in this series, but that should not take away, and I'm going to flip it now to talk about Vegas. They've been tremendous. In fact, to me, there is no debate about this. They have stepped up their game, I would say, times 50. I would even say times 100 from the way the Golden Knights played against Utah and Anaheim in the first 2 rounds. You can't say to me that they're not playing at an even better, higher level now than they did against Utah in the first round and that they did against Anaheim in the second round. There's no doubt about it. They've stepped it up tenfold. Like they were pretty good against Utah. I think they got a little bit better against Anaheim because I thought a little more of Anaheim compared to Utah. But I thought in this series they've taken it to another level. And now they're right there with anybody, out of the East. It doesn't matter, Montreal or Carolina. Vegas could win it all. There's no doubt. Absolutely they can. In fact, I think right now they look like they're going to be in a great position maybe to win it all because there's still a potential that Montreal and Carolina go into the deep waters of a 6-7 game series and, batter each other for another several games. And Vegas is going to be fresh as a daisy and rested, assuming they can finish Colorado quickly here tomorrow night, or at the worst, a Game 5 back in Denver where they're already 2-0 in this series. But the key is Marner's been amazing. He's the betting favorite to win the Conn Smythe Trophy right now for a reason. 2 more points last night. He's been excellent. Brett Howden's been tremendous, and of course we know that. And by the way, we cashed Brett Howden over 1.5 goals in the series with his empty net goal last night, and we still have an outside chance at him being the leading goal scorer in the series. I haven't given up on that just yet. Up front, we've seen Mark Stone comes back from injury, gets on the board last night for Vegas. It's funny. We've talked about all this Colorado depth, but yet Tomas Hertl scores a goal. Keegan Colasar scores a goal. William Karlsson gets on the board. It's Vegas's third and fourth line that we thought that's where the question was a little bit in the Anaheim series, that they relied a little too much on Marner in the top 6. But in this series, they've had other players step up and and make an impact offensively. And all of a sudden, on the other side, we're not seeing much from the Parker Kellys anymore and some of the depth forwards for the Colorado Avalanche. That's been a difference here. As Dylan Coghlan scores a big goal for them, obviously in Game 2 or game one, I should say, of this series. That's significant. Barbashev gets a couple of goals. Now, he's a top six guy, but you get my point. You're getting a variety of contributions from so many different players. The blue line, I mean, Dylan Coghlan, it's time to stop thinking of him as just some, run-of-the-mill depth defenseman. He's been outstanding defensively. Shea Theodore is playing incredible defensively. And, Perlos of the world would tell you this guy can't defend. My eyes don't tell me that right now. He's defending at a very high level, Shea Theodore. No question about it. Rasmus Anderson's been steady. I thought he's had a good series. Really, there's not many on the Vegas blue line that haven't had, a good series for them. But Dylan Coghlan's play, and Torts has been raving about his gap control, closing the gap, not giving much time and space. It's been very impressive to see what Dylan and Torts has been singing the praises of that guy throughout this series. So he clearly knows how impactful Dylan Coghlan's been here for the Vegas Golden Knights in this series. But the whole allotment of them, obviously Theodore's been great. Noah Hannafin's been great. I think this is some of the best hockey I've seen out of Noah Hannafin. Calgary days and Vegas days combined. He's playing really, really sound, steady hockey. You see him blocking shots too right now for the Vegas Golden Knights. So it's just a collective effort from McNabb, from Theodore, from Hannafin, from Anderson, from Coghlan, from Korzak. That group is playing great. They really are. And they're certainly playing better, and better than the Colorado Blue. Sam Malinsky's been a disaster in this year. I'm shocked how poor it's been for him. He's fumbling pucks. He's not hitting the net. He's shooting into shin pads. He's getting burned defensively. I think it was Hurdle that burned him defensively last night in that game. So Smolinski has had a tough series, and that can't happen when your number one guy, Cale Makar, is clearly playing less than 100%. If he's less than 100%, Devon Taves can't be a liability for you. Sam Malinsky can't be a liability for you. Brent Burns can't be a liability for you. And unfortunately, they've been a liability too often in this series for the Colorado Avalanche. I thought Josh Manson's the one guy I thought that played a pretty good game last night on the blue line for Colorado. I like Josh Manson's game. That was a hell of a stretch pass he gave on one of the Colorado goals last night. But like I said, the Vegas blue line top to bottom has been better, flat out. Top to bottom, Vegas has gotten more contributions up front. You still have gotten zilch, nada, nothing from Brock Nelson, from Arturi Lehkonen in this series. And who's the other one? Oh, Marty Necas. Nothing from those guys. And those are players that were brought in here to be impactful for you. You expected Necas to make an impact. Nothing in this series. Nelson, nothing. Nelson has lost his confidence offensively. He has completely zero confidence right now with the puck. Man, it's clear as day. So that's a problem for Colorado. Lehkonen has not been much of an offensive. He has not driven the offense there with playing with Nathan McKinnon on the top line. So like I said, the forwards play has been better for Vegas. The blue line play has been better for Vegas. And so far in this series, Carter Hart's been better than Scott Wedgwood. That's all there is to it. And it's not like Wedgwood's been awful. He's just been okay to good, and Hart's been great. And that's the difference at this time of year. So again, it's a big-time uphill battle for the Colorado Avalanche right now. We will be on the air with you tomorrow night, Game 4. And how about John Tortorella, too? 18-4-1 since taking over as Vegas head coach. Are you shitting me? 18-4-1 is the record for the Vegas Golden Knights since he took over. This is an incredible situation we're seeing unfold right before our eyes here, that John Tortorella has done this. This team looked like they were going to miss the playoffs if they didn't move on firing Bruce Cassidy. Seriously, they were this close to falling right out of the postseason. This close. That's how bad it was. Like, they looked dead. They looked totally lethargic. They lost their identity. There was nothing going right with the Vegas Golden Knights in the waning days of the Bruce Cassidy era. Like I said, they looked like they were going to fall right out of the playoffs. Never mind what spot they were going to get. Never mind winning their division, which they ended up doing thanks to that late season surge once Torts got there. They looked like they weren't going to make the playoffs when Cassidy got fired. And for John Tortorella to step in and look at the difference and look at the record of the team, 18-4-1, it's just remarkable It's been, we talked about Buffalo being one of and Buffalo, there's no derailing the Buffalo Sabres being the biggest story in the NHL this year. Their turnaround, ending a 15-year playoff drought, getting to Game 7 of the second round. But this is going to be right up there. This is going to be a top 3 story in the league this year, easily. And it's certainly, absolutely going to be if they finish the deal and win the Stanley Cup. Absolutely insane turnaround for the Vegas Golden Knights. And like I said, Vegas, I didn't love any of the body language. I didn't love Cale Makar even, and he did the best he could, but he was talking a little bit of nonsense, a little Kenny Atkinson in him. And by the way, if you didn't, that's a different sport, but if you didn't see Kenny Atkinson yesterday, you'd think that guy lost his fucking marbles saying the bullshit and nonsense he was about his Cleveland Cavaliers team after Game 3 being down 3-0 in that series. I actually heard not as bad with Cale Makar, but a little bit of that saying, a lot of good things, happy with our game most of the way. Happy with your game most of the way. Yeah, you could say that for one period. How could you like the game the rest of the way? And I know you're banged up a little bit. How could you say that? You had a 3-0 lead in a game you had to have, like a human being needs oxygen. You needed that game just as badly, and you were up 3-0 after the first period, and you weren't ready to play in the second period. You're flat as a pancake. You were skating around half dead at the beginning of the second period when Vegas has taken it to you shift after shift, and you thought that was good enough. Clearly it wasn't, because you had a 3-0 lead, you gave up 5 unanswered goals, and you lost 5-3 in that game. So yeah, it wasn't as bad as Atkinson, but those are concerning quotes. It's almost like we're trying to find moral victories here over how we played yesterday. And that tells me that's a team that's mentally in a bad place. And that's something that worries me for Colorado tomorrow night in Game 4, which we will get to tomorrow. But it's time now to, and Betcast as well tomorrow. As far as that game, again, 9 p.m. Eastern, will be on the air, Patreon exclusive live Betcast for Game 4 of the Western Conference Final, Colorado, Vegas. If you are a Patreon member, we didn't have a show yesterday, but it turned out to be a pretty good day as far as the betting card on Patreon for the Colorado-Vegas game. I pushed with Colorado. I actually took both team totals. I had the first period over. We did lose both teams to score in the first. We did lose Colorado goal in the first and Colorado money line, but the same game parlay, the Rich H special, Colorado goal in the first and goal in the first 10 minutes came through. And Colorado Vegas best bet, which I used on Patreon yesterday, was Colorado Vegas over 5.5. I thought we were finally freaking due for a higher scoring game in that series after 2 unders in Game 1 and Game 2, and we got it. Let me also mention something before we get to tonight's game with Carolina-Montreal Game 3 in the East. There's now a crazy over streak for Colorado versus Vegas for games at T-Mobile Arena in Vegas. Like a really strong streak with the over for the games at T-Mobile. It's kind of been funny because you look at the games between the Avs and the Golden Knights in Colorado. We've seen 3-1, 4-2, 3-2, 3-2, 2-1 be the final scores of those games. But look at the last 5 meetings in Vegas between the teams, regular season and playoffs combined. The games in Vegas between the Avs and the Golden Knights at T-Mobile Arena, the last 5 scores of games in Vegas between these teams, 4-3, 8-4, 4-2, 6-5, 5-3. A lot more goals for some reason in T-Mobile Arena when the Vegas Golden Knights and the Colorado Avalanche play each other. That is something that I definitely noticed. So that is something to keep an eye on for sure. That's moving forward. Makes you think maybe tomorrow night's another over because they're in Vegas. I think it's 5 straight between them in Vegas where I think we've seen at least 6 goals scored between the Avs and the Golden Knights. But we will talk Game 4 more tomorrow night. Let's turn our attention to the game tonight on this Memorial Day Monday night. And the place will be absolutely bonkers, as usual, at the Bell Center. Game 3, Eastern Conference Final, Carolina Hurricanes, Montreal Canadiens. We've got Carolina minus 140, road favorites here in Game 3. 5.5 the total. Of course, series tied at 1 after that 3-2 Carolina victory in Game 2 in overtime. Nikolai Ehlers with 2 goals. You know that one of the betting staples of mine with Montreal here in the playoffs, you know what it is. It's been just mechanically betting on Montreal after a loss. And why wouldn't you at this point? 6-0 in the playoffs off a loss for the Montreal Canadiens. 11-0 streak for them off a loss going back to the regular season, goes all the way back to March, that this team is on an 11-0 run off a loss. 6-0 in the playoffs alone off a loss. So I'm going to say it right now and then. I'm on Montreal tonight, plus 120 here in this one. We're riding that streak until it's over. That being said, I don't love it tonight. Like, I really felt with every time I've been placing these Montreal off a loss bets in the Tampa series, the Buffalo series, I felt great. I felt I'm winning this thing. I'm winning. You know what that song is from back in the day? I'm winning. There we go. That's how I felt every time I bet Montreal off a loss before the game. You know, I just felt they're going to win. They're the ultimate bounce back team. They've been absolutely outstanding. That's Santana, by the way, winning. We can add that to the Ice Guys Greatest Hits playlist there, Addison winning Santana. But yeah, it's one of these situations where it's just, I felt great. They've been a bounce back team. They've shown it time and time again, over and over again. Marty St. Louis' coaching has been a big part of it. They've made good adjustments. They've had a good feel for what they have to correct following a loss. There's no question about that. You know, it's been just a automatic how they bounce back. This is not going to be as easy, though, because, you know, part of me is Montreal can counterpunch. Carolina made their adjustments in game 2. They counterpunched after a terrible game 1 where, you know, 12 days off could have played into it a little bit, especially with giving up those odd man rushes and, you know, getting burned defensively multiple times like they did. But I also think Montreal's shown a counterpunch ability and an ability to respond. They've made good change. And Joe Veleno was ruled in, which is for Montreal. I don't know if it's a needle mover, but you couldn't go back to Oliver Kapanen after the other night. Oliver Kapanen was not good in the, you know, leading to that overtime goal for the Carolina Hurricanes and Oilers the other night. So that's going to be, I think, the main change that they're going to make up front for this game tonight. And Carolina looks like they steadied the game. Like that looked like Carolina in game 2. You know, they only had, I think, 5 shots on goal after 2 periods. They really kept it was just very, very tough for Montreal to have sustained offensive zone time, generate a whole lot. You know, that's what we've become accustomed to with Carolina. And now it's up to Montreal to see how can we figure out getting through the neutral zone against this team. We were able to do it in game 1. You know, they made their adjustments in game 2 tactically, and that's where you got to give Brind'Amour a lot of credit. Brind'Amour's got a lot to prove in this series, trying to get over this hump, trying to finally, you know, win, trying to finally win this conference final round, which he hasn't done yet. And we know that even after the win the other night, what's the record? 2-17 in the conference finals. Carolina in their last 19 conference finals games. But you have to give him a lot of credit. He said, I'm not even putting them on the ice on Friday after game 1 and how bad that was. We don't need on-ice work. We need off-ice work. We need video work. We need to get in the lab, hunker down, look at video, look at where we fucked up, look at where we made our mistakes, and make sure that we recalibrate this thing and start playing the way we know we can and start shutting down the neutral zone and make it a fucking quagmire to get through that area of the ice. And that's exactly what they did in game 2. It looked right back there with you. No question about it. So, like I said, it could be one of these deals where Carolina's figured it out and maybe Montreal's just not capable of responding to it. And because Carolina's capable of just rolling from game 2 into game 3 and getting the job done. And they have been great on the road. And we know Montreal has not been great at home in the playoffs. They haven't. Which is concerning. But they haven't had many playoff games, Montreal, where they've been at home following a loss. Most of the time they've been at home following a win. And following a win at home, they've been poor, Montreal. Very, very bad here in the playoffs. But the last time this team was playing at the Bell Center off a loss, they did get the job done in that situation. It was after, I have to go back a little bit, I believe, here with that. But I think it was in the... it was back in the Tampa series. Yes, it's back in the Tampa series. They haven't had many games where they're at home off a loss. They just haven't had many of those situations. But they had it in Game 3. Yeah, Game 3 of the Tampa series, where they were at home after the 3-2 loss in Game 2, and they won Game 3 in overtime, 3-2. That's your one example. So they're actually 1-0 off a loss, at home off a loss in the playoffs. So that's why you have to go all the way back to that. Look, it's not an easy side to call, but at this point in time, I'm not passing up Montreal simply because if they keep this off a loss streak going, it would be 7-0 for them off a loss in the playoffs if they win tonight. I would be upset if I didn't bet it, knowing I've been on it every single game. And to be honest with you, I think this series is a little bit closer than this price indicates. Carolina minus 140 seems a little rich. I would add this more in the minus 125, minus 130 range here. Yeah, Carolina's 4-0 on the road, but none of those road games have been teams as good as Montreal. That's what I would say to that, Robert. I mean, they can win on the road. They're a very good road team. But Ottawa and Philly, and the environments in Ottawa and Philly are not Montreal, not even close. I thought that Philly crowd was a little pedestrian, quite honestly. I'm used to the Flyers being a very loud building, especially in the 90s and in the 2000s when they were in the playoffs. I don't think their crowd was nearly as loud this time around. So, like I said, I'm gonna be on Montreal here plus 120. I'm certainly going to be on Montreal goal in the first period. I could see sometimes unsteady Freddie Anderson, although he was much better in Game 2. I could see him in that environment giving up an early goal. And how am I going to argue with Montreal scoring in the first period in 14 of their 16 playoff games so far here in the playoffs? They have scored a first period goal in 14 of their 16 playoff games. So I will be on Montreal goal in the first period, not first period goal, not first goal first period, but just goal in the first period, minus 136. And the Rich H special, I'm going to that as well. We cashed it with Carolina on Saturday. Carolina first period goal with goal in the first 10 minutes. Colorado first period goal with goal in the first 10 minutes last night, parlayed. And we're doing that tonight with Montreal goal in the first period with goal in the first 10 minutes, which you can get actually at plus 120 at FanDuel as well. So goal in the first period, Montreal minus 136 at FanDuel. Tie it up with goal in the first 10 minutes, parlayed together at plus 120. First period over we're on. I'm in this one as well. I think the first period, both teams to score, will dabble in that. Again, it could slow down after that because we've seen that, but I'm not going to go away from first period overs and that thought process here in this series at the moment. It's 2-0 to the first period over in this series. And let's remember, Montreal is now on a perfect 9-0 streak, first period overs here in the playoffs. All 7 games against Buffalo, first period over cashed, and the first 2 games of this series, the first period over cashed as well. So it's a perfect 9-0 run for first period overs in Montreal Canadiens playoff games. 9 straight. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That is what we are doing here with the first period over in this one. I'm going to wait for the. Is this going to be a zigzag series with the total? Full game total, that is, because the first game obviously went over the full game total. Second game stayed under with the 3-2, and it made sense why it did. Carolina tightened things up and played a lot better defensively. That is what it's going to be. So, like I said, it's just like I talked about with Game 2. I just like first period over a lot more than full game. I'm not saying the full game over can't cash, can't hit, but I just feel a lot more confident with the goals early because it's been 2 in a row in this series alone, and it's on a 9-0 run for Montreal in the playoffs. The first period over. Every single Montreal playoff game, first period over cashed, going back to Game 1 against Buffalo. So, yeah, keep that in mind. So, I think what I'm also going to do is, because the full game over is like 5.5 minus 130 at DraftKings. If it hits plus money, the 5.5 at some point live, I'll take a slice of it. But I'm not rushing to take a over 5.5 at minus 130 pregame, because, again, I do see a situation where we could get the goals early and it slows down again. Because I'm looking at Montreal's home games here in the playoffs. One of them was 3-2, right? One of those games that went over in the first period at home for Montreal in the last round against Buffalo was game 4 of that series. The game ended 3-2, even though the first period overcast. And that's exactly what we saw game 2 in Carolina Saturday night, where first period overcast, but the game ended 3-2. So that's why I'm just not nearly as bullish on the full game over. I'd need plus money, I think, to go over 5.5 for the game. As far as props go, and I am on Montreal. You got money line, but you guys knew that already. I'm just riding at 6-0 off a loss. I know it's not going to be as easy against Carolina. Carolina's got a little momentum. They haven't been great at home, but they are 1-0 off a loss playing at home playing at home off a loss. Montreal is 1-0 in that situation here in the playoffs. So we'll see if they can keep that going here tonight. As far as props for this game, when it's all said and done, you look at Phil Deneau's been great, 3-game point streak for the Montreal Canadiens. There's no question he's playing very well. And I think his veteran experience, he was there with Montreal when they went to the Stanley Cup final in the 2021 season, the year after COVID hit. And he's definitely made the most of it. So yeah, plus 180, 3 straight games with a point for Phillip Danault. What's funny is Caden Gooley, defenseman, and Alex Carrier, 2 defensemen for Montreal, are on 3-game point streaks, and you're getting both of them like plus 240, plus 250 to get a point here in this one. Josh Anderson, obviously, he scored both Montreal goals in game 2, despite losing 3-2 in overtime. Eric Robinson, I think you got to start to ride the wave a little bit. It's funny how this sport works. You could get a bunch of chances, can't buy a goal, and that was the case for Eric Robinson for Carolina against Philly, and even to a lesser extent the Ottawa series. He had some looks there in that series, didn't find the back of the net, had some good looks against Philadelphia, just couldn't buy a goal. But he was always up there in expected goals for Carolina in those first 2 rounds. Now all of a sudden he's got goals in back-to-back games here in this series, Robinson, and you're still getting plus 800 at some places for him to find the back of the net. So I think you got to bet Eric Robinson for Carolina at this point to find the back of the net. I think Jankowski could be buzzing around scoring. I'm not saying that because he's from Dundas like me, but Jankowski has been noticeable. He was getting in Dobish's, not getting in Dobish's face. Dobish kind of gave him the business there, chirping at him. But Jankowski, I think, a little noticeable here as well. Taylor Hall's been certainly a wrecking machine. Taylor Hall had a bad turnover on one of the Montreal. It was the first goal that Josh Anderson scored the other night. We'll see if he maybe rebounds a little bit here tonight. As far as shots on goal, Martinook could be a nice little under-the-radar goal prop for the Hurricanes because he is shooting that freaking puck right now. He has gone over 1.5 shots on goal in 4 of the last 5 playoff games, 7 of the last 10 playoff games for Carolina, and 3 straight games, including both in this series. We've seen Jordan Martinook go over his shots on goal prop. So again, when you're shooting at the volume he is, the goal prop, is worth a bite as well with Martinook in this game, and you're getting that in the plus 600, plus 650 range here as far as Martinook to find the back of the net for the Hurricanes going into this game. Jalen Chatfield's actually gone over 1.5 shots for the Hurricanes in both games in this series as well, and it's actually a plus money return with that. We saw Ehlers, Svechnikov, and Josh Anderson all go over their shot props last game as well. Now, here's the thing with Jakub Dobiš. 3 of the last 5 games he's gone over his saves prop. This series, it's been tough sledding for the Dobiš saves prop, quite honestly, because you look at the last game. Carolina. Here's the thing with Carolina. They definitely had carried the play a lot more in game 2. 26-12 were the shots, but Dobiš still only ended up with 23 saves in that game. And that's with Carolina controlling the flow. Carolina is, the shot attempts are there. The shot attempts are there. But the shot volume hasn't been there nearly as much because Montreal's blocking a ton of shots. So it's a tricky read with Jakub Dobiš saves right now because, if we're getting this kind of territorial edge, and we're getting the control of the flow similar to what we saw in Game 2 from Carolina. If we're getting that tonight, it makes you want to look at Dobish over saves. The problem is it's not correlating with the shot volume nearly as much. And the Habs are blocking just a fuck ton of shots right now. And for that reason, you're seeing these saves props stay under for Dobish so far here in the series to this point. It was a bad beat with the Game 1 loss on the Dobish saves prop for sure, but Game 2, again, it fell short, and you need to clear 26.5 tonight for Dobish to go over saves. So that's the concern with that. They're blocking just a ton of shots. The pucks are not getting through to the goaltender as much as they should, given the territorial control that Carolina's had. So it's not an easy call to just say, hey, let's load up on Dobish over saves. Just not easy, given the shot blocking prowess of this Canadiens team so far here in this series. But yeah, those are the main props. Let me see for Montreal going into tonight. It looks like Veleno with Doc and Bolduc, Texier with Deneau and Anderson. Like Texier with Deneau and Anderson's been a great line. I do not fault anybody looking at props for any of those guys. I think Jake Evans is Demidov too. I'm going to go back to the well with tonight, especially at home. He did score a great power play goal at home, so we'll go back to the Demidov goal prop well. Jake Evans had been on a nice little uptick as far as point production is concerned. Jake Evans, he didn't get on the board in Game 2 against Carolina, but this guy is still on a streak of 6 points in 6 of the last 8 playoff games for the Montreal Canadiens. Jake Evans. So, keep that in mind. His point prop could be worth a look. All right, there you have it. I think that's about it. It's everything I wanted to hit for this game. The full card, as always, every side total player prop that I move on will be posted on Patreon later this afternoon for our Patreon members. So make sure you check that out. And Alex's card will be posted as well. Actually, Alex already sent me his card, so I will tell you on the show here what his bargain bin special and best bet is in just a moment. You can get his full card on the Patreon page later. Make sure you check out wizardsportspicks.com. Again, daily premium picks available on the website. Long-term subscription passes available, wizardsportspicks.com. And again, NHL playoffs, NBA playoffs, MLB ongoing, CFL going to start in a couple weeks. That'll be on the site as well. So make sure you check it out, wizardsportspicks.com. And, of course, patreon.com/Ice Guys, $10 per month. Goalie charts, totals charts, the daily betting card, sides totals, player props posted each and every day on the Patreon page. So make sure, again, you get on board. We got our betcast. There it is tomorrow night for Game 4, Western Conference Final. Is it the end for the Colorado Avalanche? We will find out together tomorrow night with our Patreon members for Game 4, 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern. And again, you must be a Patreon member to tune into the betcast and join us for it. So make sure you sign up if you aren't already. $10 per month. Your membership goes a long way to supporting the show and keeping it going long term. So $10 per month. Get on board. Patreon.com/Ice Guys. And, of course, check out the Ice Guys store. Get your gear and your merch. Summer right around the corner. iceguys.myspreadshop.com. All right, bargain bin special of the night and best bets coming up right after we hear from our great Ice Guys sponsors.
Wizard Sports Picks, featuring the finest handicappers in the universe. Sharp insights, trusted picks, and relentless results. We strive to help you become consistent winners. This is Wizard Sports Picks.
All right, bargain bin special of the night here for Game 3, Eastern Conference Final. Carolina Hurricanes, Montreal Canadiens. We'll see if Montreal can remain undefeated off a loss in the playoffs, and turn around their struggles at home here in the playoffs, or if Carolina just can carry the momentum forward from Game 2 into Game 3 tonight for another big-time performance. We'll start with Alex for Bargain Bin Special of the night, and this is a guy that was maybe the hottest goal scorer at one point during the Buffalo series, and it really started with Game 7 against Tampa Bay. He's kind of cooled off here the last few games, but Alex thinks tonight is the night for him to get back on the scoreboard and find the back of the net. Alex Newhook, plus 350 for Alex with his Bargain Bin Special of the night for Game 3 tonight. Alex Newhook, plus 350 for Montreal for his Bargain Bin Special of the night. My Bargain Bin Special of the night, and look, it's, in some cases, some of these we talk about, I've been going to the well constantly, continuously with Brett Howden for Vegas, and people will think, can't you choose someone else? But at the same point in time, why deviate from it when it's been working? And it has been working. There's no question about it. And it didn't work in Game 2 with this player, but I'm going to take a shot that it works tonight with him. Ivan Demidov, we're going back to the well, plus 330 with Ivan Demidov for the Montreal Canadiens, a best price available. So that'll be my Bargain Bin Special for them. And my Carolina Bargain Bin Special, we're going to see if we can get a third straight game in this series where he finds the back of the net. At a massive price, we're going to go with Eric Robinson for the Carolina Hurricanes. Eric Robinson, best price out there, plus 800 for him to find the back of the net. So there you go. Eric Robinson for Carolina, plus 800, and Ivan Demidov for Montreal, plus 330 for my Bargain Bin Specials of the night for Game 3 Eastern Conference Final. All right, best bets. Alex for best bet is going with the first period over 1.5, minus 112 first period for his best bet. That's a bet I like quite a bit as well. But for my best bet for tonight here and Game 3, we're going to go for that money line price on the Montreal Canadiens with some hesitancy because of Carolina being, pretty damn good hockey team and certainly figured things out defensively in Game 2. This is where I'm just banking on a track record that has been, and I can tell you right now, if Montreal wins tonight, I'll be on Carolina in Game 4 because Carolina is every bit as amazing off a loss as Montreal has been. Like, I don't think Carolina's lost 2 in a row since January. That's how long ago I think it was that Carolina's lost 2 games in a row. So that's what I'm open for. Montreal tonight, and we flip back and we take Carolina Game 4 if Montreal wins tonight. But we're going to go and ride that 6-0 off a loss streak in the playoffs for the Montreal Canadiens one more time. Montreal plus 125, the best price out there right now with the Canadiens here in Game 3 for my best bet. All right, shout out to everyone in the chat at the like button. We appreciate it very much. Obviously, we got not only the live show at 2 p.m. Eastern tomorrow to tee up Game 4 in the West, Colorado, Vegas, but also the live betcast at night, Patreon exclusive. So make sure you check that out tomorrow night. Become a member if you aren't already for our live betcast for Game 4 between Colorado and Vegas tomorrow night. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday, Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Memorial Day Monday. Enjoy the game and good luck. And we will be back tomorrow on Tuesday, 2 p.m. Eastern, for another edition of the Ice Guys.